Welcome back to the City Current Show. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. We're always honored to bring you inspiring stories of individuals and organizations making a difference and powering the good. And we're honored to be joined by Travis Claybrooks. He's the CEO of Raphah Institute. How are you doing, Travis?
Jeremy, I'm doing well, man. How are you?
Doing very well. So you all are doing tremendous good, very collaborative approach. And when you talk about powering the good, it's on so many fronts with what you're doing. But let's start with a little bit of your backstory, because you've got a unique backstory in terms of law enforcement, being a pastor, working with youth, and now the juvenile justice system as well. So give us a little bit of your past leading into the Raphah Institute.
Well, I think it was Johnny Cash who said, "I've been everywhere, man." And that's probably a little bit of my story. But I would say preemptively, I think everything that I've either tried and failed at or kind of been engaged with, really it's kind of perfectly suited me for what I'm doing today, really in a strange way, but it's kind of turned out that way. So, as you mentioned, I was in law enforcement for a little bit. It's been over 20 years ago now. And that's really where I've had the first opportunity to see the city, the city current, the current of the city in a way that I really never had before. I didn't grow up kind of in the inner city. I kind of grew up a little bit outside of the city, but man, being a patrol officer on an MDHA property, HUD housing, public housing, in that space, got a chance to really see not only what was happening in people's lives, but also seeing kind of our system responses to what was happening. And it occurred to me that we were really trying to use policing and prosecution and incarceration and all of that kind of as the solvent for everything, for all of the stuff that maybe we didn't want in our society or our community. And it didn't take long to see that didn't work. It wasn't really addressing the issues, the driving issues that people were facing. And so that became the initial inspiration for, what would become Raphah Institute. I think related to that, as I said, I didn't grow up in the inner city. I grew up in church, and that was the other kind of side of it. As I looked at church and reflected on my religious experience, I was like, man, like very little of what we are doing there has anything to do with what's like happening out here. And I felt that if Jesus was here today, he would he would be on Laura Murfreesboro Road. That's where he would be, rather than where I was on the weekend, and so that kind of ate at me as well. And so it was those two things that kind of converged in my head to say, hey, not only do I need to do something different, but something different needs to be done. And so that's how I started heading this way.
Yeah. So dive in and talk about Raphah Institute. What do you do?
Well, we, as I reflected on what I saw really people isolated from resources, isolated from the stuff they needed to heal and to thrive. I saw people trying to get those resources, trying to access those resources. It just happened that most of the way or manner in which they were doing that was illegal. They were trying to cope with trauma, right? They were trying to meet basic needs, right? They were trying to figure out how to navigate their interpersonal relationships. And so unfortunately, sometimes drugs was the way that they coped with, their own trauma, right? They would steal or sell or do whatever they did, whether that was their body or drugs or whatever it might be, right? To try to meet basic economic needs. Violence was traditionally a part of life. And so for, the idea behind Raphah Institute is how can we create new systems that give people access to the real resources that they need, that you and I might have, right? That you and I might take for granted. And so that's what we try to do. We try to build systems, and we do that through a through a model. We call it like it's like our mission statement / process. It's partner, design, restore. How do we partner with the people who are most impacted, who have the greatest need, to design the solutions that restore access to the stuff that they need? And those are real tangible things. We think about it in terms of, access to good quality healthcare and housing and social support systems and money, right? Safety, education, those kinds of things.
Talk about how it works in terms of the programmatic, because anytime you talk about working with individuals and pouring into them, there are pieces that you can, kind of not necessarily predict, but you can put on a path. And then there's a lot of other things that just come up, and it's like, I got to step in over here and take a holistic support over here and approach over here. Like, in other words, there are certain things that you can control, and then chaos happens, and you got to be able to step in and be flexible. And so talk about the programmatic piece, but also remaining flexible.
Yeah. We always, we try to, Swiss Army knife is what you try to, kind of, maybe a metaphor or an analogy. It has its tools, and the tools do their thing, but you need a different tool depending on the situation you're in. And that's really where the design and the partnership and the design part of that process, that's really what it's about, right? It is not the solutions that people need and that communities need are not a one size fits all. So many of our current structures, especially our systemic structures, are kind of, this is just what you got, right? And we'll use, for example, our restorative justice diversion program, right? This is a space where cases from court are diverted from court to our organization, and we work with the person who's been harmed as well as the person who has caused harm, and eventually bring them together to have a conversation. But that, after a lot of preparation and a lot of work, a conversation around what does it look like to truly account for this and to make it right to the greatest extent possible. Well, our traditional criminal legal system, for example, says, here's the crime, here's the time, that's it. But it really makes no effort to understand the impact. If Jeremy, if you had your car stolen and I had my car stolen, even though that's the same law that's broken, the impact that it has on you, completely different than it would be on me, right? What if we had processes that responded to each of us uniquely? What if I could sit and say, here's how it impacted me, and here's what justice or making it right would look like for me? And what if you could sit down if it happened to you and have the same opportunity to say, here's how it impacted me, and here's what making it right would look like for me, right? So you are taking this very chaotic situation where harm has happened, and you're trying to bring some order to it, but you're bringing order to it in a way that is unique to each person that is impacted. And same, if I steal a car and if you steal a car, I may have come to that moment of stealing a car for different reasons than you may have come to that moment. And how can I be responded to and you be responded to in a way that helps both of us get on a path to where we don't need to steal cars anymore, right? And what I may need may be different from what you need, but if we have a system and a process that can respond to both of us, we think that everybody wins. So that's an example.
Yeah, and carry that into some success stories. So go ahead and lead that into what success looks like. Give us an illustration.
Yeah, we have had right at about 70 young people who've completed the restorative justice diversion process over the last few years, 4 years or so. We have had less than 5 be reconvicted of new charges. So that's, we're talking less than a 10% recidivism compared to, an average in our city of anywhere from 40 to 60% and a national average of 60 to 70%. So that is a huge success. That's a big success. We want to get more people accessing that. What does that look like on an individual level? We had a young man who was involved in stealing a car. And he came together with a person whose car he stole. And they talked about it. They talked for a good 3 hours about, it all. The gentleman who had his car stolen talked about, here's what happened when you stole my car. Here's all the things that happened. I had valuables in my car. Those are gone. You wrecked my car. My insurance company dropped me. I had a wedding band in my car and it's gone. I had a precious, college university t-shirt, sweatshirt that belonged to me that was really sentimental. Do you know where it is? The young person had an opportunity to come in and talk about, here's my life, here's what's happening. Not so much from an excuse space, but just here's who I am, here's my story, right? And the gentleman who had his car stolen was very interested in this young person's life. Like, what is going on with you? Like, what is happening? Turns out this young man doing very well in school, caught up with a group of people doing things that they shouldn't be doing. Well, it ended up that the young man, the gentleman wanted about $1,000, said, I'm actually out a little bit more cash than that, as a result of this. But, if you pay me back $1,000, I will, everything, I'll be good. Everything's good. And so during COVID, in fact, this young man got a job, ended up losing that job, got another job, and paid $100 a month for the next 10 months to this gentleman to pay him back some of the cash that he was out. And you might say, well, it feels like maybe a slap on the hand, or, you steal a car and, okay, yeah, you pay back a little cash. But, if that's what satisfies a person who's been harmed, and that experience helps a young person to never do that again, that young person has not gotten into any more trouble, then we all should be happy about that, right? We all should be happy about that. So that's an example. We've facilitated homicide cases, as well as home burglary cases, with good success. In fact, Jeremy, we're expanding into adult court here in Davidson County, and we are expanding into the juvenile court system in Shelby County, which I think city current's in Memphis, right? That's kind of where your home is, right?
Absolutely. We can hear this in both places.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're working with the new district attorney and juvenile court judge there, as well as with several community-based organizations to expand this work there. So we're really excited about that.
Carry that into then, how can the community help your efforts?
The answer to that. There's we're a nonprofit, right? We don't sell milk. Okay. So, we always need funding. Funding is the revenue generation is an ever-present thing. So you can always visit our website at raphah.org to donate. But there may be other ways that you want to engage. You might, and this is especially true for business owners, people who are in the corporate world. There are a lot of opportunities for us to partner with your business to do all sorts of things, team building things, ways for your employees to engage with the work that we're involved in. I've only been talking about restorative justice here. We have an initiative in home-based childcare and early learning, lots of opportunities in that space. And so I would say reach out to us, follow us on social media, check us out, get on our mailing list, go to our website, get on our mailing list, and actually reach out. If you own a business and you say, you know what, I want to get engaged. I want to, do more than just give $1. Now, listen, if all you want to do is give $1, that's fine. You can do that. We're perfectly happy with that. But you also may want more than that. And, there are opportunities for that.
Well, when you talk about all the good you do and the ways you can get involved and serve and volunteer, that service, that volunteerism opens up your heartstrings, and you start realizing, I can make a difference in these lives. I can make a difference in my community. And man, that leads to even more powerful opportunities. So give me one more thing that you wish everyone knew about Raphah Institute.
That's a good question. I think I would want people to know that we take the work that we do very seriously. It is You just talked about, getting engaged and being involved. And I think proximity is such an important thing. It's difficult to truly know or understand the nature of a problem or the nature of a situation until you get kind of close to it, right? Um, and that's what happened for me. I got closer to the stuff, and my eyes were just open to a new reality. And I ended up finding what I feel like I was born to do. I, I wish that people could see more of the need that's in the community, that literally you probably drive by it every day if you're on 65 or 24 or 40 driving through Nashville, through the heart of Nashville. There is so much work that needs to be done. Nashville, the it city, so much growth, so many things that are happening. But there are two sides to it. There's a lot that's overlooked. There's a lot that's undealt with, and that needs responding to. And that's where we're at. We say there's the margins, and then there's the edge of the margins, and that's where we try to live. The edge of the margins. Who's there? Who's not going to be good data for your program? Who's probably has a high chance of not succeeding when they get into your program, right? Because it's just that tough. That's where we're at. So I hope that people know that about what we do, and if you're not able to get close, support those who are.
Yeah. You mentioned it before, but go ahead and mention again. Website, social media, where do we go to follow all of your efforts?
Yeah, raphah.org, RAPHAH. Okay, you can rewind that. It's a video. You can rewind that. Raphah.org. You can sign up, on our mailing list there. You can follow us on Facebook at Raphah Institute. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. We do have a YouTube channel that's up and coming. But yeah, you can follow us on social media. Hop on the mailing list, and that, there's always stuff, trickling down from the mailing list. So you can kind of really stay up on things that are happening. There's a concert at City Winery coming up in January. Tickets go on sale. I saw it in the Tennessean today, but we're being honored there. Buy tickets for that concert. I think it's January 7th, I want to say. But some good local music happening. There are lots of the stuff happening. Get on the mailing list, follow us on social media. And yeah, stay in touch.
I love it. Well, Travis, thank you for all you and your amazing team at Raphah Institute do. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks, Jeremy. Thank you for powering the good, and the work the City Current's doing. Glad to see that you're still happening here in Nashville. Appreciate all the work you do.